Tudo que vê vai agora. Vai no teu ecrã e fala, ok? Ok. Se nós participar, sabia que muito mais participar online do que. Matteo.
Yes, good morning. I see in presentation, I mean, in presenter mode, but okay, if it's a big issue, we can go like this. We see the slides, that's fine. No, but yeah, okay. No, but that's okay. No, I don't. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I don't know, I mean, if you hear me well, but anyway, I hope so. Good morning, everyone. My name is Matteo Satta. I'm representing ANCI Toscana. ANCI Toscana is the Association of Cities in Tuscany, about 300 cities. And ANCI Toscana is the coordinator of Climaboro. That's why I'm here. I have the role of scientific coordinator. If we go to the next slide. Okay. Now, to give you an overview and to somehow put the project at its place, Climaboro is a project that is funded under the 100 Climate Neutral and Smart Cities. As you know, this program selected more than 100, about 112 cities. But at the same time, in parallel, it funds some projects in different fields. I mean, and we are part of the urban planning and design field. And we are on that part, but we have colleagues working on many other arguments like mobility, to say, or transports. The funding is 11 million, but the total budget is slightly higher. It's 11.4. Next, please. Thank you. Now, to give you a short overview of the partners, as I said, ANCI Toscana is the coordinator. And we have, starting from above, you can see above we have our R&D specialists. We have specialists in a lot of fields, from urban planning to climate neutrality, climate change, but also experts on the market and exploitation. And then moving on the second row, we have our IT specialists, and followed by our specialists of cities, that are the three that you see, the two of them, Energy Cities and Torino Urban Lab. And then you have another small agency that takes care of the market again. And then we have all our cities. And if we can move to the following slide that shows better the cities. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. You see our cities, starting from Cascais, by the way. We have like cities that are divided in three groups that we can somehow say two. We have the leaders, the ones that are working now, like in the primary market consultations now. And then we have 8 cities that move all around Europe, as I said, from Cascais to Sofia, from Athens to Differdange. Then we have a set of cities that is very different, heterogeneous. And then we have the ones that are the followers that are supposed later on to replicate what our leaders are going to do, or are doing, or are going to do. And those are Kirk in Croatia. Then we see we're more in Eastern Europe, Croatia, Bosnia, Poland, and Czech Republic. And we have that in Montenegro too. And then we have in France, Issy-les-Moulineaux, that is a small municipality in the outskirts of Paris. Issy-les-Moulineaux and Podgorica for now are just observers, but they can activate the followers mode. Next slide, please. Okay, now just to give you a short and quick overview of what is why this project. And the why is that we think that cities are the potential trigger of climate neutrality. That means that today, as we see also in this picture, we have cities that are a small piece of land, that we say, some say 3, some say 4%, but we're around that of Earth, but they represent the most of the emissions than GHG emission, then we are more over 70%. And we expect also that cities will more and more be crowded by people. I mean, people going to live there more and more. This obviously makes cities one of the most important elements, and not just cities, but also citizens, that we will see that is one of the focus of the project. Next. Now, said that, what we want to achieve is to approach the cities to the market, mostly. The circular technologies, we played with words, like take into consideration that today we do have a lot of technology, but we're not yet able to implement it. While you have to implement a technology like that, when you have a principle like that, you need to approach. We have a lot of startups out there that have a lot of very important and useful technologies that are not fully exploited, and maybe in some cases we need to mix them up. And there is a full approach to do, and also there is this somehow approaching cities between each other, also making sure that who has the technology plays a more open role. I mean, saying, okay, we can share. Next. And more concretely, what we want to do, as I mentioned at the beginning, we talked about urban planning. What we want to do is to help a bit here Mafalda to move from looking at the classical urban planning, look at the picture and saying, what they do, and being able to have tools helping them not just to break silos, but also to make easier the way of planning in cities, particularly about climate neutrality, that is, and climate change in general, that is a big challenge for the cities. Next. Okay, to close this part, the idea is really here to understand how urban planning and behavioral change, I was talking about citizens, can support each other or stimulate each other to achieve climate neutrality. That will be, then we want to understand how urban planning and behavioral change can support climate neutrality. How can we boost climate neutrality via some improvement of urban planning and improving behaviors? That is one of the keys of climate change. Next. Okay, and avoiding to be too technical, trying to explain you what we did is to divide the cities that you've seen earlier into groups that actually then exchange between each other, but the two groups are more divided by theme. Then we have on one side the energy and mobility, and on the other side waste and circularity. Today we are in Cascais, that is more on waste and circularity, as you probably know. And those two groups are related to the rest of the project by two key partners that we call city angels, that are two city specialists that somehow try to support the cities to exchange between each other, and also making their needs more understood by the project. Next. Okay, and then to close, I want just to show you what is somehow the steps that the city will be taking, or I mean, that's the project, but also the cities. Now, what we have done, that step one that you see above, urban planning challenges definition, is what we have been doing in this month. Now we're close to the second, or we started just the second, we can say it like that, with these preliminary market consultations that are somehow the final part of the definition of the challenges, and they move using an innovative procurement part that the colleague Francesco Molinari will present later, that is, as he knows, he's the expert. And then done the innovative procurement that, like to say, in next autumn we will have out the real procurement, the tender out, then obviously we will have winners, normally 2 per city in the next spring, and you will have then solutions deployment. Once done the deployment, we will evaluate the footprint, and then the leader cities will support the follower city to replicate the services, and then starting all over again the process. Next, I think it's the last one. Yeah, then you can follow us. I mean, you see here our website, and we have quite a number of social media that you follow, in particular LinkedIn, that is very active. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matteo. Não. João? Não. Já estou. Não está na minha conta.
Ok. É aqui neste monitorzinho.
Não, fizeste
Ocultar. Ok. Ocultar visão.
Isso.
Depende do.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Vânia Coelho from Cascais, and I will present the Cascais challenge around the textile waste. But first, I will give you some of the background on the reality of the waste in the municipality. Cascais holds a natural holds the price of natural wealth from the coast to natural park, passing the stream. Aiming to enhance it and maintain it, the municipality develops innovative and sustainable projects and initiatives, while seeking to respond to environmental challenges and climate preservation. Through the...
Barbara, sorry, can you come closer to the microphone? We cannot hear you very well.
You can't hear anything that I said?
Now it's okay, thank you.
Estamos aqui no meio informal, não te preocupes. Força.
Não, estava a avisar quando você não consegue. É?
Ok.
Sim.
É isso que eu vou dar. Tenho aqui o link e tudo.
Can you hear me?
Yes, like
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me from here?
Yes, we hear you from, I mean, online we hear you.
Okay. Okay, like I was saying, through integrated action and intelligence of the management of the resources, we intend to achieve the goals and the commitments that made by the municipality to adapt to climate change and moving towards to carbon neutrality. Okay, the municipality of Cascais is covered by a wide operational network. The daily collection of the household waste is the best known, and it covers the entire municipality. Throughout the municipality, there are several selected containers that the citizens can deposit glass, paper, cardboard, metal, and plastic packaging. Cascais has 10 eco centers, 6 fixed and 2 mobile, where the citizens can put small domestic appliances, light bulbs, forks, CDs, DVDs, and among others. We have also a network of used cooking oil collection with 62 bins, and since 2010 we collect more than 190,000 of these oils, and that will goes to the recovery and reuse. Since 2018, Cascais has been working on an innovative bio-waste collection system with the green colored optical bags, and at this moment this system covers 30,000 families, and by the end of the year we intend to achieve the entire municipality. Here you can see a dashboard of our tool that monitor the production of urban waste, called residuometry in Portuguese, and here you can see the amounts of the waste collected last year. As you can see, 87,000 tons of household waste were collected, almost 6,000 tons of paper were collected, more than 4,000 tons of glass were collected too, and more than 3,000 tons of plastic were collected too. So far, more than 4,000 tons of bio-waste have been collected, with only 1,000 tons that were collected last year. Like I was said before, in Cascais, household waste is collected in different streams, namely selective streams with the potential to recycling, such as glass, paper, cardboard, plastic, and metal. But sometimes that household waste is contaminated with textile waste. So for that reason, we want to create a new textile stream system with the potential to feed circular and innovative environmental initiatives. The needs that we have identified in this issue on the municipality are the lack of recycled textile materials, lack of textile collection system, and lack of data on wearable and non-wearable textile. What we are looking for with the potential solutions, we are looking for a data collection system to monitor and manage selective textile waste streams, IT platforms, data and digital solutions to better understand the usage patterns. And we want to increase the quality of the waste collected by improving the selective waste collection processes, as well as the potential to foster local textile recycling. We hope that the solutions that we are choose to increase the knowledge and awareness of the impact of textile waste and the potential opportunities for recycling and reuse. We want to support the collection, recycling, reuse of textiles through the supporting the circular economy strategy, also through a cross collaboration with citizens, local organizations, NGOs, and waste waste collection companies. We will promote public awareness and dissemination events with the stakeholders, and we want a continuous output of data to identify the gaps and opportunities. The goals that we have established for this preliminary market consultation on textile waste are the creation of innovative solutions in urban environments for the selective collection of textiles that can be replicable and scalable. And also a creation of a collaborative platform between the textile collection agents and the citizens. This platform will serve to listen to all the stakeholders and gather opinions and ideas. To finish, we want to consider that it is going to be a long journey, and today is the first day to start the exam, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
So next on our agenda, if there's any questions, anything you'd like to know. Yeah, so any question, would you like to follow up, Francesco?
I think if there are any questions to the challenge presentation, I think we might start with some immediate questions and then maybe have more after my presentation. I don't know if anyone would like to make a question. Of course, if people from the room, from the audience in the room, they would like to make a question in Portuguese, feel free, provided that we can translate the question and the answer right away.
Okay, so let me just ask the audience here, se existe alguma questão, ficou mais ou menos entendido para que nós
É que a gente vê,
a abertura que temos ainda para as ideias.
tem que ser.
Okay. So everything here, no questions at the moment. We already had an introduction beforehand, so let's go up.
Hello. Hi, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Intervene. Eu vou falar em português, porque para mim é muito mais simples explicar bem em português.
Okay.
Nós somos uma empresa do setor da reciclagem mecânica e já há 48 anos trabalhamos a retirar os resíduos pré-consumer da indústria têxtil. E há muito que nós temos a solução para o problema. As pessoas e o consumidor é que sempre viram o reciclado com muito maus olhos. O que nós fazemos nas indústrias onde tiramos o pré-consumer é tratamos-o todo, nada vai nem para a incineração, nem para aterros. Agora, nós tratamos o pré-consumer, agora temos o problema do pós-consumer.
Ok, muito bem.
Estão-me a entender? Os portugueses devem estar.
Estamos a anotar. We're taking notice of your comment, mainly the before consumption, after consumption, and the problem that is after consumption of the waste, the produced waste.
Agora é assim, o que se pretende é que a roupa depois de feita que tenha um passaporte, que o consumidor final pague um imposto e que depois as empresas recicladoras recebam a roupa e que não se faça negócio com isso. E aí é chamado o Estado. Se o consumidor em 2025 pagar o imposto para o tratamento da roupa, como hoje em dia se paga um imposto para o tratamento dos pneus, tem que haver depois, não é? Uma transparência. O que eu acho é que na empresa da reciclagem, nas empresas de reciclagem falta transparência e há muitas empresas que dizem que reciclam e que depois que vendem essas mesmas roupas para países que os estamos a contaminar, porque como pensamos que o país é muito longe, que nós, a Europa, nunca nos vai cá chegar o problema. E aqui está esta cimeira do clima, não é? Tem que haver transparência. Todas as empresas recicladoras têm que abrir as portas e dizer aquilo que reciclam, com que fim é, e porque a nossa certificação de GRS atesta a veracidade do processo. Mas
Ok.
nós...
Ok, obrigado. Eu acho que percebemos bem a noção. Eu vou só traduzir em inglês, está bem?
Ok.
Basically, we need a bit increased transparency with the recycling companies because we must account for everything that we are doing here on this sector particularly. And so hopefully we could consider a tax to ensure that the recycling process is properly made. I think this is a proper translation of and summary of what was said. If it's not, please write down on the chat what you think of it. And maybe Francesco, if there's no any other questions, maybe Francesco, we can carry on.
Yes, very happy to continue. Should I share my presentation?
Yes. You take the lead on that. Share your screen.
Okay. Because Matteo before was doing otherwise, so I was in doubt. I will share my screen in an instant. But it seems I'm not enabled.
Yeah.
You should give me the power to share my screen, Joao.
Okay, wait, give me I will try just to promote you. Tornar co-anfitrião. Okay, so you are now a co-host.
Yeah.
Please see if you can do it.
Yes, I can do it. Now you should see my screen. This is in editing mode. Let's see if I can go to presentation mode. Can you see the slides going forward? Yes, okay. So thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, or I should say good afternoon already. It's a pleasure for me to come back to a nice Portuguese community after spending quite a lot of time in Cascais in my professional life. I am very happy to be back virtually, and soon we will have a meeting in person. So I hope to meet in person all the people I don't know, including Madame Gomez, who spoke before me. Today, this workshop is not an unusual workshop, as already the title of the event should demonstrate. It's a market consultation. It's an event during which we expect to receive comments, suggestions, proposals, and I will explain to you during my presentation that you will have more time after the end of today's event to continue interacting with us. As first of all is the city of Cascais through their companies and agencies dealing with the waste management sector, but as is basically ANCI Toscana. ANCI Toscana is the association of Toscan municipalities. There are about 380 municipalities in Tuscany. This is the organization that gathers them all. And we are also the leaders of the Climaboro project funded by the European Union, of which Matteo, who spoke before me, is the coordinator. ANCI Toscana, in its position of project leader, is about to launch a call for tender, which will be published by the end of September this year, and give a comfortable deadline for a presentation of candidatures. The call will have a budget of a bit less than 300,000 euros, VAT excluded. And the first important note I want to make is that it aims to reward two distinct and independent solution providers. So what is the logic behind? The logic behind is that we are, and we means both Cascais and ourselves, we are mostly aware of a challenge. The challenge was nicely described before me by Barbara. This challenge has to do, as you have seen, with data collection to improve the quality of a specific part of the process of waste management in Cascais. A process that is already fairly automated also in terms of data and analytics, as you have seen from the slide showing the quantities of waste collection. But we can do more, and we have identified, as it was mentioned in the introduction, specific categories of waste that can be improved starting from the origin of the process. So when the individual or the company puts the waste into the different collectors existing in the city. And the challenge is more or less clear to us, but we voluntarily kept it open because we are agnostic, we are neutral in terms of possible solutions to this challenge, which can be proposed by market operators. And we are so open to receiving different ways of solving our challenge that we will reward two distinct and independent solutions, which will be typically the first and the second in the final ranking of received proposals. We expect these proposals to reach us from individual economic operators or consortia, and we will protect the intellectual property rights of those individual economic and operators and consortia, trying to promote the widest possible participation, including from startup entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who may have original and interesting solutions to the problem. These solutions may have different natures. They can be existing products and services in the market, using the familiar measuring system for the maturity of a product or a service, the technology readiness level, TRL. We are looking forward to receiving solutions that have the status of TRL 9, which means established products and services in the market. This is why a consultation today. We would love hearing from you that solutions being more or less in line with the challenge described earlier do exist in the market. They only need to be adjusted or customized to the specific case that we are describing today in the city of Cascais. We don't know if these products and services already exist. That's why a consultation. We would like to hear from you if any of these solutions you are in possession of it. But we are even more open. We are open to prototypes which may result from EU-funded or national or regional projects of research and innovation in this same domain or even in other domains, which we recommend should have the status of the TRL of at least 5 or 6, which means they should already be coming out of the laboratories and starting or having already started some testing and validation activities in real or realistic environments. But we are open to accompanying these prototypes through their deployment in the city of Cascais in an experimental field so that we can measure the appropriateness of these prototypes to solve the challenge introduced earlier. Based on the discussion we will have with you today, we expect to understand which specific direction the call should take to make room for solution prototypes you are in possession of, or even for existing products and services we don't know about. As a recommendation, we would like to stress that there are at least 5 elements of these solutions which should be borne in mind. The first element is that we are making reference to this challenge not by chance, but because we would like to promote the participation of economic operators within the perimeter of this challenge, which is very important for us, not only for the city of Cascais, but for the entirety of the Climaboro project. We are thinking of solutions that are socio-technical, which means they involve people and people's behaviors or changes in people's behaviors alongside the appropriation and or the use of technology. As Madame Gomez said before, if I understood correctly, it's not all about technology there. It's also about incentives. It's also about regulations. It's also about changes in the existing taxation system or incentive system. I think I can speak on behalf of the city of Cascais in saying that we are also open to examine the consequences of the introduction of such technologies for the existing incentive systems or taxation systems. These solutions should also be low cost, and this is quite obvious because there is a budget for each of them of approximately 150,000 euros, VAT excluded. It has to be borne in mind that we are looking for solutions in the context of a European project. And as Matteo Satta, the coordinator of Climaboro, said earlier, we are looking for solutions which can be reused quite fast in other contexts than the context of experimentation. This adds 2 more components or features to the solutions we are looking for. One, that they should be scalable, which means that if the experimentation works well in the small field that will be identified in the call for tender, for example, in a small block or district of the city of Cascais, or a street of a group of collectors, whatever they will decide, we are open to taking it up. This doesn't mean that once the deployment has been done, once the experimentation is finished, we will go and look for another solution. It's in everyone's interest that the results of a successful deployment in the small scale are used to justify the decision from the city to make room for additional budgets and therefore a larger scale adoption. Same goes for transferability. I cannot speak too much on this, but within our own project, there are some solutions we have in mind, some approaches we have in mind to make the solutions developed and tested in Cascais also transferable to other cities. To other cities within the consortium, Matteo mentioned we have 14 of them involved in many ways, and also cities outside the consortium. In this sense, I want to anticipate, but I will repeat it later, that 2 other cities in our consortium, Torino and Maribor, are running similar events. Torino already had their own preliminary market consultation. Maribor will do it next week. And the challenges they are describing are pretty similar to the challenges, challenge of today. So for those who think to be solution providers that are good for the city of Cascais, my recommendation is to go also to the other 2 cities, Torino and Maribor, to get information about their own respective challenges. So what are the milestones for us and also for you? Today, as I said, in the remaining part of today's event, we expect to hear further discussions on the challenge presented and also an introduction of some of you who may be interested in presenting a contribution to the definition of the contents of the call for tender ANCI Toscana will publish in a few months. This is perfectly legal, and I will explain this better in the next slide, under some quite simple conditions, one being that everything that takes place during this workshop and after this workshop will be traced, so that even those who were not here can get access to the proceedings of today's discussion and also can get access to any other material shared after today's event or during today's event. To this purpose, we will be using the Clamaboro website, clamaboro.eu, which has a specific section on public procurement and a specific page dedicated to the city of Cascais. Then, for those who think they cannot speak today, but would like to send us a contribution in writing, there is a nice template you can download from our website, from the page of the city of Cascais, and with that template, you can send us a suggestion for a specific solution, which in your opinion would be okay for deployment in the city. This is legal. We are in a pre-call phase, so it is legal, and it is the purpose of today's event and the purpose of the following days to receive suggestions and contributions from market players and research institutions. We will publish each received contribution on our website for a matter of transparency. The only exception we can make is that you name specific contents to us of the application form and of the suggestion form, and justify why these contents should not be published, for example, because there is a patenting process pending, and you know that when there is a patenting process pending, you cannot publish any information to the state of the art, otherwise you would run the risk of being rejected your application because of that. The deadline for this submission of written contributions is the end of July. Why? Because in August and September, we will dedicate quite a lot of time in writing the call for tender. This is a complex call for tender because, like I said, it includes other cities. 8 of them are included. And we are looking forward to coming to Cascais, as I said before, for a consortium meeting on the 20th of September, hopefully to finalize the agreement of all partners on the text of this call for tender, which will be published on TED. TED is the online supplement to the official journal of the European Communities. We will foresee a comfortable deadline for presenting proposals. We don't want to put any pressure time-wise. We are looking for good solutions, not for solutions described under time pressure. And we also want to advertise this call further. So our expectation is to receive the proposals until end of the year or even beginning of next year. And plan is to sign the 16 procurement contracts, because we will have 2 contracts in Cascais and 2 more in each of the remaining 7 cities. So that makes 16 procurement contracts until June, possibly with the release of advance payments. This is a nice approach to public tenders, which ANCI Toscana has had in the past, and we are thinking of replicating this approach for the case at hand. Like I said earlier, everything I am talking about is legal. In particular, it is legal to choose the procedure for public procurement, which I will describe in my next slide, which is named Innovation Partnership. Innovation Partnership is one of the possible procurement instruments identified by the most recent procurement directive back in 2014, which has been adopted by all member states of the European Union, including Portugal, including Italy. The Innovation Partnership has some advantages, which I will describe better in the following slides. The legal basis for ANCI Toscana acting on behalf of the 8 European cities comes from Article 38 of the same directive, and also from the Clamaboro Grant Agreement signed with the European Commission, which is the financial source of our call for tender. This preliminary market consultation rests under the provisions of Article 40 of the same directive. If you need more information, you can contact our FAQ page, and you can also send us written questions, which we'll be happy to answer, of course, keeping the anonymity of you as senders of the question, but disclosing the question and the answer on our FAQ page. We have already published the prior information notice of this procedure on TED in early June, and you can find the link, the page, by contacting the link shown here. The slides, of course, will be made available after the event on our page. So where do we stand now? As it was described earlier, we have a challenge under definition, which derives from the priorities of the city of Cascais in terms of climate policy, waste management, and so on. And we are trying to refine this challenge, understanding better what direction the call for innovation partnership should take, keeping into account the features and the constraints of any solution the market may suggest to adopt. These solutions are probably made of a combination of data, people, and technologies. Data, it was already mentioned that we are in possession as city of Cascais of a considerable repository of data. The question may be that this data may not be useful for the challenge itself, or some of the data can be useful for the challenge itself. That would be actually a question from my side to Joao, to Barbara, if they can explain a bit better how the existing database works, what kind of inputs are provided, by which means, and what kind of outputs can be possibly taken as inspiration for the product or service we would like to procure, knowing that there can be two options for this call. So two winners. One can be a product, another can be a service, for example. Another interesting point is whether we should source some of this data from the people themselves, in which case we could ask ourselves what is the level of engagement we should talk about for the citizens or the stakeholders, which communities it would be better to identify, the size of those communities, the location, and so on. This is all open to discussion. It's open until the end of July, based on your suggestions. You might tell us we need at least a certain number of people to do a certain list of activities in order for our solution to work fine. And we will take that into account in shaping the call for innovative partnerships. And finally, we have technologies. The nature of the challenge makes me think of the so-called climate services, which are basically decision support systems in the area of climate, which can provide useful data for taking decisions, not only by public decision makers like policy officials, but also by normal people in their daily lives. And then there could be, but it's not sure, there could be a component of citizen science. Citizen science is a collection of technologies enabling each and every person to become a collector of data or suggestions and recommendations for the improvement of science and technology. Gamification is another family of technologies which can provide some of the incentives for people to act. And the decision can be of embedding some of these technologies in the proposed solution or not. Interoperability is another important aspect. There are existing systems, and again, my request, maybe a second question related to the previous one, to Joao and Barbara, might be to spend some time on describing the systems which are in operation and what are the aims in terms of interoperability with the newly procured solutions. All these aspects will be better specified in the call for tender anyway. And finally, there is the reference to legal and ethical aspects in connection with technology. It is not granted that technology complies with existing norms and regulations. As far as privacy is concerned, this is something that has to be fixed up front. So it would be embarrassing for the city to accept, for any public entity to accept technology solutions that are not privacy compliant. On the other hand, there is this interesting sandbox concept, which is part of the Clamaboro vision, according to which it is possible to get a suspension of some legal requirements or regulatory requirements during the time of experimentation of these technologies, knowing that the suspension cannot survive forever. It will have to be lifted sooner or later, but suspending the applicability of some regulation may allow the deployment of a solution that couldn't be deployed otherwise, but it is not necessarily granted that this solution, for the reason that it goes against the regulations, is automatically to be considered useless. It could be that with the appropriate changes in the regulations, this solution might become useful and it might outperform other competitors which apparently do not need to interfere with the existing legal and ethical system. I'm going to the end of my presentation. As I promised to you, I wanted to mention why we chose the innovation partnership as an instrument. First of all, try to read this slide from left to right. We are at the end of December or at the end of January, and we have received a certain number of bids. Normally, what happens in normal calls for tender is that the bids received are a combination of a technical description and a financial offer. Not in this case. What we will be receiving is only a description of the solution, the technical bid. This because we will still be relatively open in the call for tender to alternative possibilities, alternative solutions, and we sincerely believe that there can be operators in the market who at the moment don't know anything about our call, but in 2 or 3 months' time, they will be informed about our call for tender, and they will be in possession of solutions we never thought about, and they must have the possibility of participating in this call. Then the main difference with normal calls for tender is that the procedure foresees a negotiation phase. This means that we will speak bilaterally and in a totally confidential manner with each single bidder, discussing the contents of their technical bid. And the contents will be discussed to improve their compliance with the interests of the city of Cascais, with the definition of the challenge. In this phase, no one will ever talk about prices. Of course, we know that the maximum price for each solution will not exceed 150,000 euros, a bit less. This must be taken into account because, on the one hand, when we ask for improvements, if we ask for improvements, you will have to be left free of deciding not to implement these improvements because the budget might be insufficient in that case. In return for the consideration of improvements, the city will also indicate some parts of your proposal which are not meeting the purpose, and therefore we are not interested in having them. This may result in considerable savings and therefore in a change of the direction of the proposal from the contents initially submitted. At the end of the negotiation phase, we will launch a final call to receive the revisions of the initial technical offers, this time accompanied by a financial offer with the indication of a price. And then the usual evaluation process will start as it is applied in every call for tender based on the so-called meet principle. The most economically advantageous tender will be financed. In other words, the proposal with the best ratio between quality and price. In this case, as the asterisk shows, we will not limit ourselves to financing one single bidder, but we will reward two of them at the price they have indicated in their bid. This is the end. I just want to mention that there are other 7 cities, like I said earlier, engaged in the same procedure at the moment. We already had events like today's event in Sofia, Grenoble, and Athens. If time allows, Matteo will make a more detailed introduction and description of those challenges. Next week, we will have the preliminary market consultation in Differdange, which holds some traits of overlap even with today's challenge. And then the second group to which Cascais belongs, I already said, Torino and Maribor have very similar challenges to yours. And then we also have the city of Ioannina with something related to data visualization for the sake of improving the sustainability of tourist and resident behaviors in relation with a lake they have within the perimeter of their territory. But as I said, you will hear more from Matteo before the end of today's event. I am done. I thank you for your attention. I remain available to any question. Please take your time in making questions, but also in introducing yourselves, because what we need today is to receive information from the participants in this event. I'm done, and I'm stopping.
Thank you, Francesco. So understanding if there's any questions at the moment, you can either ask them now or you can write them on the chat box and the organization will take care of them. We will have one more presentation today from our guest speaker, João Rodrigues, who's been working with EMAC Cascais Ambiente on this subject of textile collection. And so hopefully we'll have a bit more of insight towards this. Only after this presentation, we will have a workshop moment where we will collect more creatively ideas and questions and challenges that people are facing right now, and hopefully gather more data for our project here. So we'll call now João Rodrigues. Thank you so much for this one. We will share the screen as well. Okay, sure.
So, good morning to you all. I will just make a brief presentation in Portuguese for the persons here, and I will come back to you shortly.
Bom dia a todos. Estou junto com Rodrigues, Engenheiro do Ambiente, trabalho na empresa aqui, eu estou um trabalho para a NUA, dirigido para o ambiente. No sentido da reflexão que poderia ser uma estratégia de gestão do texto no município de Cascais. O meu background, já disse, Engenheiro do Ambiente, eu tenho 20 anos conduzidos, em particular do Sul, mas depois da empresa de desenvolvimento, e desde 2017 estou na empresa de consultoria de engenharia. Tomada de apresentar, se calhar volto aqui.
So, good morning to you all again. My name is João Pedro Rodrigues. I'm an environmental engineer. I work for GIV Engineering, that is an engineering service provider established here in Oeiras, not in Cascais, I'm sorry about that, but not too far away. I'm working now with GIV and NOAA. We have established a partnership and we are working for the municipality of Cascais and for Cascais Ambiente in trying to, I would say, to define or at least to draft a possible strategy for the management of post-consumption textile waste in the Cascais municipality. Hopefully you are reading well and okay. So what I would like to offer you today is to go through these 4 topics. So generally, I think you are not post-consumption textile experts, I would say. So I will try to linger on a little bit on the textile waste problem, generally speaking, European level mainly, and then go through, of course, the Portuguese with a situation, and then even drill down more to what we intend to do in Cascais and what are the, I would say, the initial conclusions or the initial data that we have gathered, and sum up with some conclusions. Hopefully everything's okay. Okay. As you are aware of, the maturity of the textile waste, generally speaking, in Europe has not yet been reached. So we have mainly unreliable data and not very stable concepts in terms of the waste flow management. So it's really hard to find reliable information. The existing data normally is not organized in a very coherent way. In even the most, I would say, most important international studies that, of course, can be consulted, sometimes do present some conflicts between them in terms of the information that is not very reliable, I would say. Why is that? Mainly because in order to gather the information necessary to develop these strategies, we have to rely on interviews with individuals responsible for the value chain, and of course, to obtain that data can be somehow challenging. As you can also imagine, in Portugal, as also in I would say all over Europe, the textile waste stream is mainly handled by associations, non-profit organizations, and municipalities, mainly. So there is no centralized reporting system, and of course, each organization can use different criteria for sorting its waste and classify the waste that they are collecting and managing. The main destination, as we shall see later on, is reuse. Recycling still plays a minor role at the moment. Of course, on the production side, we have difficulties also coming from the mixture of diverse patches and labels that, of course, do difficult the recycling activities to substitute the following recycling activities. Sorry. There are some words that are really hard to say, especially because I'm lacking a third coffee at this moment. But let's try to move on. One of the topics that we'd like also to discuss in our strategy is where should we call textile waste? So mainly, where is the borderline to classify post-consumption textile as waste? Normally, of course, we are used to consider that waste is something that we want to discard out, so coming out mainly for the consumers. But we know that at the moment, the post-consumption textiles, so that's what we are concentrating on. So we are not concentrating on pre-consumption, we are concentrating on post-consumption textiles, PCT. So mainly, of course, some of the, I would say, better alternatives anyway, after consumption do go to, I would say, to some reuse alternatives, and there's sometimes difficult to understand where is the waste borderline. I would say that this question of the borderline is not also very, I would say, stable all Europe around. So, of course, there are different classifications. Of course, generally speaking, textiles that are collected with some kind of pre-sorting activities are not considered as waste. They are considered as a product. But sometimes collections in, I would say, street bins or curbside collection, where it is expressly communicated or addressed to the consumers that only clean and reusable textiles should be received. In some countries that is considered waste, and some others it is not, like here in Portugal. So in Portugal, we do not consider APA, Agência Portuguesa do Ambiente, so the Portuguese Environmental Agency, the National Authority on Waste, considers at the moment that whenever you have a container, on a curbside container, stating that the content of the product, the post-consumption textile that you should put inside is mainly for reuse, then even if there is waste there, and I'm sure you can imagine there will be some waste there, and of course, even if not 100% of the content of that container will go for reuse, some parts will go for recycling, some parts for other forms of recovery. Nonetheless, that will be considered as not waste. Okay, so different borders, but for the time being, we think our idea at the moment is to consider that textiles should be waste whenever they are discarded without any kind of immediate sorting. So some kind of pre-sorting or some activity like this. So the curbside collection should be considered as waste collection in our opinion. Okay, so that's our point of view. Coming from the lessons that we have learned from, I would say, the benchmark, European benchmark for PCT management, so post-consumption textiles management, I would say that mainly the business model that everywhere in Europe has been established, the main source of revenues, at least the ones sustaining the, I would say, the activity, comes from the sales from reuse for secondary markets. A small portion of that, as we shall see later on, for domestic markets, for each of the country's markets, but mainly in export, they are exported outside the European Union and of course also outside Europe even. The collection model, even if there are several collection systems, I would say that over-the-counter drink centers, curbside bins and door-to-door collections, door-to-door collection systems, mainly the curbside bins are the largest source of PCT in Europe at the moment. The main factor at the moment on the management of PCT comes from the know-how associated with, I would say, the understanding what are the wishes of the customers that will buy their post-consumption textiles for years. So the main know-how comes from that, to understand and the ability to establish long-lasting, interesting connections with those clients, to understand what are their wishes and to follow up, of course, and to fulfill the quality criteria that they want to establish. So that's the main focus as far as we have observed all over Europe. The key factor for the success of at the moment, at least, is to establish this kind of strong, last-longing connections between the producer of that second-hand materials and the consumption of that second-hand materials. Of course, we know that there is a general agreement that, and as you are probably also aware, last Wednesday, so 5th of July, the European Commission has published its revision proposal for revision for the Waste Framework Directive, and with a special focus on textile waste. And of course, in order to establish EPR as extended producer responsibility systems for textile waste. So textile waste and footwear, I would say. So there is of course a general agreement that coming out of that, and also coming from the fact that after the 1st of January 2025, all the municipalities in Europe, in the European Union at least, should establish the collection of textile wastes. There will be a huge increase of material, and of course, with that increase of material will come, surely we'll have also a reduction of the quality of the material collected, and surely enough, and hopefully, I would say, we will have to have a huge increase also on the recycling of the increase of the proportion of the recycling of those materials. In terms of technology, I would say that in spite of there are huge and high, mainly for instance in Germany, at least considering the studies that we have saw, that we have analyzed, in Germany they are collecting 75% of the total of PCT produced. It is a huge number. Even in Germany, I would say, but all over Europe, but also manual sorting operations are the key and crucial elements to the procession, to the preparation for reuse and recycling all over Europe. There are, of course, some experiments using automatic sorting, optical sorting mainly, but again, the main problem for with the textiles, and I didn't say, I explained to the audience here, I didn't say to you, I'm an environmental engineer, that you know, but I come from the municipal solid waste management industry activity, and I was used to consider that the plastic sorting was probably the most challenging sorting activity that we'll have to do. But after studying textiles, I understood that I was again also wrong again, and I would say that looking at a sorting textile, post-consumption textile sorting, they are producing more than 100 different types of materials, qualities of materials. It's absolutely crazy what they are doing, and mainly relying on manual sorting, mainly. Okay? So it's a much more harder in the complex problem, and because as we have said, a piece of post-consumption textile piece as a huge mixture of the materials that, of course, do makes it even more complex to prepare it for recycling. But nonetheless, recycling will be increased. That's for sure. And of course, and also the trends and also the Waste Framework Directive also states that the intention to increase the upcycling activities, recycling activities, I would say, not downcycling, because the kind of recycling that we are doing now is some kind more downcycling than upcycling. We are not recycling fiber to fiber. We are recycling for, I would say, other types of uses, of course, important enough, but not the same, I would say, the high level of recycling that we will have left to target for. So hopefully that was understood. So coming to the Portuguese market, let me just share with you the legal, I would say, background. So again, coming from the Waste Framework Directive, after the 1st of January 2025, like I just said, textile waste collection should be in place by the municipal authorities. And even before the Waste Framework Directive, the Portuguese waste management law specified that the government should study prepare an EPR system, an extended producer responsibility system, until the 31st of December 2024 for textile waste. So we were somehow in advance as compared to the European level, but now we are more or less in line. Hopefully, these objectives will comply with. Sometimes we are not, so we are very quick on legislative term to define goals, but sometimes not so keen and fulfilling them. But that's the main point on this. Also, we have recently, I think 2 months ago, the National Waste Management Strategy for 2030 was approved and published. And of course, also there is a huge focus on textile waste. Again, restating the objective to define an EPR system for textiles and also other materials like furniture materials. And of course, to other actions and objectives in order to establish an increase on post-consumption textile waste collection for donation, for exchange and repair networks, for, I would say, to increase its preparation for reuse and recycling. In terms of quantities, according to our estimates, the Portugal per capita consumption will be somehow around 11 kilos per person per year. So more or less in slightly below the range of the European level production. We have done this following using the same approach at that was used by GRC, so the Joint Research Center, that in their study on European level defined a given methodology to establish the production. We have followed the same methodology for Portugal, and we have reached this figure. Of course, this figure has some kind of margin of error. I would say that probably we will have somehow between 120,000 tons up to 160,000 tons of post-consumption textile waste in Portugal yearly. What about the destinations? Also, according to our initial analysis, we have established that we are more or less collecting somehow like 50% of the textile waste is separately collected at the moment, more or less. So it could be somehow between 10 and 20, but I would say an average point of 15%. If we add up all the collections that has been established in the country at the moment, mainly by like social entities or private organizations established in collaboration with the municipalities, with the quantities that they are collecting, more or less 20,000 tons per year. Mainly the destination is reuse, like also in Europe, 60 to 80%. And I would say that outside Portugal, it's probably 85% of that is reused outside Portugal, 50% like also in other European countries is reused in Portugal. 10 to 25% coming for recycling, for I would say filling products, wipers, and other similar products. There is still, of course, on the collection side, out of those 20,000 tons, it's not only post-consumption textiles. There's also footwear, toys, but also some waste, other waste that cannot be recovered. So it will go for landfill or for energy recovery if we are talking about Lisbon. And finally, there will be other unspecified around 1 to 2% of the quantities. Coming to Cascais. So at the moment, considering our estimates drilling down from the national level to the municipal to the local level, we estimate an average figure of 2,500 tons of PCT produced in Cascais per year. Where does this number come from? It comes from that average production that we established for Portugal, but we know that in Cascais, I would say the income level is higher than the average level. So surely enough, so we have an index of 118. So on average, you are 118 richer than the average Portuguese persons all over the country. So that should give, I would say, a slightly higher production level. So I would say from 2,400 to 2,700 tons per year. So this is the ballpark around 2,500. Of course, considering also the collection, the initial, I would say not initial figures, but because we will have in the future the actual figures of the collection of PCT in Cascais, but coming from the average figures from all over the country, we consider that I would say those 15 to 20% is collected for reuse, recycling, and the other part will go to an MBT or to the landfill in trato lixo. So mainly 2,500 to 2,100 tons of PCT is still discharged without recovery. Please do consider that these are initial figures that we will later on try to confirm. So what are the challenges and what coming to the purpose of our work here? So we know from the information side, we don't have enough information, reliable information. We can also, as I told you, regarding collected quantities and accessible to private collection networks. So we will try to, on our analysis, to complete this information and to get the first overview, I would say, a more robust and refined overview of the PCT management in Cascais. In terms of the collection, mainly there are some companies, there are different companies collecting PCT in Cascais already. We know that. Probably some of those collection points are out of the control of the municipality of Cascais and Ambiente. But we think that from our point of view, only a municipal system can really control the quantities and ensure the necessary measures to increase to reduce the quantities of PCT going to landfill. So of course those solutions must be cost efficient, and probably will have to involve also the non-profit organizations, like also the Waste Framework Directive, or the proposal of the Waste Framework Directive also stipulates. Textile waste stream, another problem in terms of still rely heavily on export to foreign countries, where as you can also imagine, the management of those, probably they will go for use, but later on they again will be waste again. And of course, the waste management in some of those countries are, of course, much less stringent that there are here in Europe and here in Portugal and here in Cascais. So we know that we will have to increase recycling, and probably, as also the Waste Framework Directive, the proposal of the Waste Framework Directive also stipulates, there will be some kind, I would say, a ban, but at least a much more the exportation of textile, post-consumption textiles to foreign countries where the waste management practices are not at the same level as in European levels, that will be much more difficult to implement. So we will have a barrier there, because I don't know exactly, but I would guess 50%, 40% at least is exported for African countries and Asian countries, where probably the waste management practices are not at exactly the same as level as we are now. So that will also be a problem. In terms of public policy, of course, probably we'll have a PRO, an EPR system, extended producer responsibility in one or more producer responsibility recovery organizations, PROs. I will admit, and I admit, yeah, okay. Okay, and also this will also have to be addressed, and probably this will happen until the end of 2024, at the beginning of 2025. So, considering the strategy for the municipality, we'll also have to take into consideration that we will have a PRO and EPR system that will have its own responsibilities in terms of the management of the PCT, final product PCT, or footwear, and whatever it is included in that EPR system. So now going to the main goals of our study, we have more or less also briefed on some of the preliminary conclusions. So by the end of this year, we will have to define this, to present to the municipality of Cascais this alternatives for the management of the PCT for Cascais. So we have defined 3-phase studies. First, the estimation of the textile waste production, a mass balance. Then the second phase, where we will get an idea of, let's say, a photograph and of all the operators and the stakeholders involved in the PCT management in the municipality of Cascais. That will be a thing that we will start. This phase will start in the next following days. And also the phase 3, the interview with consumers and to stakeholders, and finally by the end of our study to define guidelines for the strategic approach for the management of PCT in Cascais. So all of this is more or less defined. How I'll go through, because I think I have to speed on. So this is our timetable. Hopefully by the end of October we finish this. And to conclude, okay, sorry, thank you very much. I try to speak a lot, so thank you for giving this sign. Again, textile waste is a growing problem in Europe, also in Portugal. In its early steps, collection is still disorganized and dependent on private organizations, non-for-profit and some for-profit organizations. We have to control the waste flow, make it more efficient, and coordinate information. As for now, recycling is still very hard and difficult to establish, mainly due to the absence of sorting, but mainly dismantling and treatment facilities for the PCT. That should also be a factor to take into consideration. We still, of course, will have to implement actions in order to make the textile waste management, or the textile waste or textile management, more sustainable for the future. Of course, we in Cascais need to find a way to reduce heavily the quantity of textiles going to the landfill or going to the final solution, final recovery. And of course, we have to bear in mind, nonetheless, that we can have all given set of solutions, but in the end, they must be, I would say, friendly for the consumers, because that's the kind of client or the target that we are reaching for. Without them, surely enough, no solution will be a proper one. So thank you very much. Hopefully, we have reached our goal. And João, so
thank you.
The floor goes to you. No, okay.
Okay, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. We could see a bit of the problems that we are facing, And we will now iniciar video. Sorry, we'll just start the video. So we will now do a small exercise to collect more opinions in a more productive way, both here in the room, but also there. So we will share, we've already shared the Miro room, the Miro board, sorry, but we will share it again here on the chat to make sure that everyone can participate. There are 4 questions that we are giving you. Feel free to share more insightful ideas. This is fairly open, like Matteo and Francesco mentioned. So please feel free to provide the ideas on the Miro board that we will share following. I know Susanna here has her hand raised. Is there a question, Susanna?
Yes, hello, good morning. Sorry, yeah, I think it's a kind of a quick question. It relates with the previous presentation. So for those who do not know me, I'm Susana Fonseca. I'm from a Portuguese environmental NGO. It seemed to me that I heard the presenter saying that so in Cascais you are, let's say, you are considering that all the textiles should be classified as waste. So my doubt is about the definition of it. If a textile that is collected on the street in a bin for reuse, mainly, as far as I understood, you are not in agreement with the present classification by our environmental agency that classifies it as not waste. I would like to have, if you can give me a more specific explanation why you want this kind of classification, because usually a classification as waste also creates more difficulties in terms of the operation of the resource, if we want, and being it mainly for now as for reuse. I would like to understand a little bit better why you think, if I understood correctly, why you think all these textiles should be classified as waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna, for your question. Yeah, I would say it could be somehow a tricky point. Please understand that I come from the waste management industry, so normally, for me, to consider this as a waste is not really a huge problem, but I understand that, of course, that can somehow make it harder or more difficult for the establishing of the collection. My topic is looking from our point of view, looking at the different, I would say, solutions. As I explained, not all the countries that we have studied do rely on the same rules. So there are countries where, like in Portugal, if the main goal of the container, the collection system, thus stipulates that the main objective will be to recover the material for reuse, then it should not be considered as waste. There are other countries that do consider that, because that is very difficult to access, as you can imagine. Of course, it depends on the consumer. The most proper definition would be if there is a delivery to some kind of over-the-counter system or to some person that will do some kind of sorting or a sorting of the material delivered by the consumer, then that is surely enough it's a product, not waste. If it is mixed because of risk factors or something like this, it should be considered as waste. My topic is the following. I think that sometimes this distinction is difficult for the consumer. Of course, it will be something that we will have to, it's not I would say a definitive conclusion. Always with the surveys that we are now, we will start now doing with the consumers and with also the social institutions working in Cascais collecting PCT. We'll try to confirm this, but sometimes it is difficult for a consumer to understand what really we are asking them to do. So my idea is that we should keep it simple. So the message will be put everything. So put all the PCT that you don't want to use anymore. Okay, of course, you should, there are, as we know, other solutions that to share, to sell, of course, that should be promoted anyhow. But in the end, if you have a post-consumption textiles that you want to discard of, don't worry, put it everything in the place and we'll take care of that. We will manage to recover, of course, to maximize reuse as far as possible in a good manner, according to the waste framework directives, of course, not to export just to other countries where waste management practices are not at the same level as we have now here. There's another question from
so there's another question. We have to keep things briefly, please. Otherwise, we're already delayed. We only have, we're 20 minutes late. So Andrea, please go ahead.
Hello, good morning. I'm Andrea. I work with Humana Portugal. This is a non-profit organization active in used textiles management. I wanted also to ask a question to João Rodrigues. He had a slide, so sorry that you had to go and sit and maybe now have to get up again. But you had an interesting slide with textiles destinations in Portugal, which I found surprising because you were presenting data that I was not familiar with, namely how much textiles are reused in Portugal, etc. But I don't really understand the source of this data because I imagine this can only concern the small amount of textiles that are separately collected, right? But can you tell me more about how did you manage to make these estimations?
Yeah, so we have had contacts with Humana and other companies working on the collection, Triplo and Sara Trading and others collecting PCT. And you are right, probably that I was not clear about that. The figures that we have presented are, of course, coming from those 15% or 10 to 20% of PCT that we are at the moment selectively collecting. Okay, so this is not the figure for the 100%. So that's for the 15 or 10 to 20% collecting. All the other part, unfortunately, is going to landfill or other, I would say, for this final disposal. Okay, yeah. So the figures comes from our interviews that we have had in the past months with Humana and other companies like this, and that comes from that. And the figures are only related to the fraction, those 15%, I would say, selectively collected at the moment. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, João. Thank you, João. So indeed an interesting presentation. There's so many questions. So we will now share the Miro board with you. There's no rules, obviously. Just feel free to present your ideas because you will be engaged in the process. So this is just the starting point, this event today. Make sure that you follow up with the discussion. We will do this in the next, I would say, 30 minutes. So we have 4 boards for you to help us with your ideas, your suggestions, your concerns, but also your questions. What questions do you have that you would like to be replied to in the coming weeks? Remember the deadlines that Francesco presented. So I will ask you through the Miro board there, and here at our audience, we will take care of things at the same time. So if there's any question from now on, please write on the chat box here in Zoom, and we'll try to reply to make sure that things go as swiftly as we can. Thank you, and see you in a bit. Barbara, go ahead.
I will share the link, okay, in the chat.
Para mim, as nossas ideias, o que é que vocês gostariam de uma forma a ter egoísta, não é egoísta, mas como vocês fazem parte do circuito, sintam-se à vontade para definir o que é que vocês gostariam de ter para a vossa ação particular. Não pensem necessariamente em todo o circuito, pensem quem é que vocês, a vossa posição, poderiam ajudar com as vossas ideias, com as vossas sugestões. O processo é complicado, não está bem explicado. Se calhar faltam outras linhas de follow-up, se calhar já têm coisas que vocês podem utilizar, é com a vontade. Tem algumas preocupações, mas não coisas metidas, é aqui uma das preocupações. Tem questões para o Consultation?
tanto a nível de procedimento como a nível de conceito e como é que isto vai processar. Tem questões aqui para os nossos convidados, tem questões uns para os outros, tem perguntas sobre a existência da vida e para eu coloquei aqui apenas isto como cores indicadoras, porque depois fica um bocadinho mais fácil. Portanto, eu diria que trabalhem a contar e depois se quiserem. Eu vou deixar aqui. De verdade, no dia 20 de ainda não foi apresentado, mas se calhar apresentado. Agora. Ok, sim, pode ser.
Isso tem estado a imediatamente. Gosto mais da parte.
Joao and Barbara, I have shared my screen with the canvas of Miro, and I wanted to tell you that there is silence because you are muted. So if you want to communicate with the people in remote, you have to activate your microphone. Otherwise, we will only hear silence in the virtual room.
Francesco, we are speaking Portuguese in here, so I will check what you are writing on the mirror, okay, and feel free to write things, okay, and 30 minutes before we join the physical and online room, okay?
Okay, at what time should we stop making the changes? How much time do we have, Barbara?
Nós vamos, portanto, do debate institucional, o primeiro de respeito à reciclagem.
13 minutes.
Dentro da definição mais concreta, isto para a triagem, para questionar as matérias-primas para a reciclagem. Este fluxo acaba por ser aqui uma novidade que a legislação está a fazer e vamos ter que nos aplicar esta nova novidade, perceber lá está, depois eles vão ser postos de emissão de materiais, por favor, para enviar, e que isto muito bem numerificado para que cortes de Olá, eu sou a Xavier, sou uma empresa de identidade à luz, sou do Sul, de Carolina, e as comunidades e agradecidas e estamos todos a aprender esta solução e ideias e
Trabalho que escreve adiante e trabalho na área da ação climática e de organização e, acima de tudo, trabalhamos com dinâmica de parceria de países em projeto, em controle de projeto, que é o nosso objetivo a fazer, em conjunto com a minha colega Bárbara, que é...
A minha formação em meio ambiente, eu tirei a licenciatura na estrutura da economia, estou há 3 meses na empresa, também nesta divisão com o João. Já estou a ser a empresa.
É isso. Ok. Estamos aqui para aprender. Pronto, então, faça como quiser. Temos aqui ministros para assuntos e café. Sintam-se à vontade para, num ambiente descontraído, partilharem vossas ideias, porque, de facto, nós temos aqui uma oportunidade única de dar algo que possa trazer para qualquer um dos agentes que aqui estão. E 300 mil euros, que foi dito ali, que é pouco dinheiro, para um projeto de luz, se calhar, assim, tão pouco dinheiro. Só para nós, sim. Ele vai ser partilhado, ou seja, isto é uma ideia que vai ser partilhada com a universidade, que é a Turim. A Turim tem um desafio semelhante ao nosso. Portanto, vamos ter mais inputs sobre as cidades, mas acima de tudo, este produto será totalmente implementado dentro desta área. Não indica necessariamente, porque pode ser algo imaterial, não é? Que seja exclusivamente implementado cá. Pelo contrário, o que eu aqui referi é que isto depois pode ser escalado e replicável para outras cidades e para outros parceiros. Mas já que temos aqui este produto dinâmico, vamos trabalhar na atividade de Cascais com todos os agentes que aqui estão na terreno. Só é o grupo mais dinâmico, seguramente temos todo o saber para isso. Desde o início, desde o fabrico até depois o disposal final. Então, está à vontade, quando vocês preferirem, querem fazer perguntas uns aos outros, querem chegar até aqui, querem falar ali junto ao processo na política. Porque e tem aqui os conselheiros para isto, de grande uma ideia. Não se sintam envergonhados. Sugestão, considerado que tem forte ideia. Então, estamos aqui para deixar o limite e mais. Já depois passo uma pergunta. Okay, guys, we're leaving the room here, the live room with our participants. We're already collecting ideas, but I can see you have wonderful ones. So feel free to carry on. We will do this for maybe another 10 to 15 minutes before we do a commonly presentation.
Thank you, João.
Okay, everyone, we are still here. We are about to finish our exercise and we will present the results that we have here. And hopefully someone from the audience, maybe Matteo, maybe Francisco, whoever you'd like to summarize what you're seeing there on the Miro board. So give us an extra 5 minutes and we'll be right back.
Okay, understood.
Okay, guys, we are going to do. Não há problema, Susana, obrigado pela participação. We are going now to do the presentation of our exercise here. So I think you can see.
Now I have deactivated my screen sharing, so we see the room. I don't know if you
Okay.
want to use
Yeah, we can't really, we've got a fixed camera here. But I will share the results, which are quite synthetic,
Okay,
and then I'll leave it to you. You can probably share the Miro, your screen with the Miro board, and then we'll do a very quick presentation because we are 5 minutes until the end of the event, but this will be quick. Okay. Okay, so Francesco, can you hear us?
yes, I can.
Okay, so
Nice.
very briefly, we've got this board full of colorful stickers, as you can see. And I will summarize what we have. So maybe Matteo can also take some notes, but we will share this on the final report on our side. So we have ideas. Ideas are basically very diverse. We have the tracking with the market textile units, integration on existing collection streams through optical bags, but there's still the question: should we use the same containers or different containers? When I say same containers, I mean the household containers. We will have to increase the information that we pass on to our citizens about the life cycle of the clothing. If there is the engagement of the retailers, we can have some sort of let's say an exchange invoice where they could get probably some benefits from acting responsibly. We need to create a network of sustainable lifestyle, which includes clothes. So let's say clothes or branding that clothes are included when they are of sustainable materials or sustainable development, not just greenwashing, obviously. And when it comes to concerns, there's the concern related to regulation. So when it's regulation, it's the binding laws that we have to follow. So is the textile a waste or not? And that usually can differentiate significantly what we have to do. We will need to provide the experience to our resident here in Cascais to convince him how to do this. So this is the concern because it's a lifestyle habit change and it's not easy. And we've done that before. It could be a process that is complex. So engaging the production, the life cycle, everything could be a challenge. We should also focus on reducing before recycling. So that's the 3 R's plus the reducing one, which is obviously very important. When it comes to suggestions, we must engage with the National Environmental Agency. We could use existing technology for clothing collection. We could have school engagement. There are some initiatives that we should look into, such as MOOCs. We should engage more stakeholders, namely NGOs, and to show to the consumer the impact of textiles in their lives and the environmental impacts. We also have the integration of the textile flux in a local eco-center, for example. And then we have a few questions, which is, what is the role of the retailers? Are all fibers, all textiles recyclable? Which will we have specific technical classifications for the waste towards recycling? So that's related to which fibers are we talking about? And consumer question. What happens after my textile is placed in a bin? Is it a waste? Is it going to be reused? So this transparency increase could obviously help all the other ideas and suggestions. So they're very well connected. So we will take note of this. And Francesco, would you like to carry on with the Miro board? We'll present the Miro board here.
Yes, of course. So let me start by the idea sharing. I will read the ideas so that it is faster. Any collection process for PCT should have as a main priority reuse, and therefore how the system is designed should consider the necessity to keep the clothes clean and in good conditions. This should be considered in the procurement process. Considering the role that social organizations have at present in the collection of PCT, we consider that they should remain a partner, allowing to connect this activity with social benefits. It does not mean that they should be the only ones operating, but the solutions proposed should give a clear role to social organizations, and this aspect should be considered in the procurement criteria. It should be a priority to promote local sorting and local reuse. Local may mean regional or national. Exports for reuse are a good thing if proper sorting and transparency is ensured, but local reuse is always better, of course. To help understand our activity, we will present Gomez Limited. We are a mechanical textile recycling company, and we have the ability to recover textile waste to produce carded yarns. We collect pre-consumer textile waste from several Portuguese textile factories. The waste is then sorted by color, composition, among others. We also sometimes recycle post-consumer waste, which is sent to downcycling applications. However, we are actively looking for alternative routes and new solutions for its application, as we believe that the post-consumer waste will increase substantially in the coming years. Now I go to the suggestions. There are used textiles operators already working in Cascais. Any solution should include them. They have knowledge they can share, and many processes can be built on what is already in place. The principle will always be the reuse of second-hand clothing. We are aware that selling clothes in poor conditions to underdeveloped countries is not helping them. On the contrary, we have to be aware that in the end, the clothes have to be taken to the industry. Thanks to new technologies, we are also able to attribute downcycling and avoid soil contamination and waste of natural resources. Given the sorting challenges and overall system costs, why not establish a mechanism whereby the original producers are sent back all their products to recycle? That forces them to concentrate on matters. Now the concerns. We consider that having the obligation to collect PCT without an EPR in place with a proper financing system will be problematic. Having municipalities assuming this responsibility when producers should be responsible is not a good solution. The key to sustainability in textile is to reduce consumption, and that means reducing production. So there must be strict demands to brands in terms of eco-design and resource consumption. We also agree with the necessity to act at source, introducing eco-design criteria that will promote durability, reusability, simplification of the mixture of fibers, and recyclability. Eco-modulation can also be a tool, but it won't be enough, since the amounts charged will have little impact in the overall production and consumption model. So acting at source, for example, defining minimum conditions to enter the market, could be a way. Much of the textiles that are collected go outside of EU, non-circular. Though economically it's probably easier to take that route as it's less fuzzy about quality, local policy will have to be forceful to engage things and retained locally in Portugal. And an economic market will have to be created. That's hard, and it will influence actions locally markedly. And finally, the questions. Does the challenge have a time frame? a certain period to implement and test the solution. Yes, we indicatively think of a period of 1 year to implement and test the solution in Cascais. So if the contracts are signed in June next year, July next year will be the first of 12 months of implementation. Is there some information thinking on financial disincentives to change behaviors? This is something I pass to probably Joao or anyone in the room. Have you identified the major contributors of PCT in Cascais? I'm thinking of an 80-20% approach. Is there, e.g., a set of commercial parties that have PCT or a district in the city that could be identified as a pilot or a demo site? Again, I pass it to Joao. Is citizen behavior the main focus of this challenge? Is the desired behavior related only to proper discarding of textile waste, or also about reducing consumption, reuse, and repair? I think we are limiting ourselves to proper discarding, but it can be, of course, part of a bigger project, and we also heard something about the ambitions of the city of Cascais and Cascais Ambiente. Are there any other societal engagement plans in Cascais alongside this initiative that could piggyback on each other to maximize impact? I leave it again to the people in the room. Given the infrastructure and process changes required to make this work, is co-investment planned by the municipality alongside the Climaboro PCP action? If not, is the expectation that the climate services will predominantly be about data gathering and or perhaps societal engagement? That's phase 1 and 2 of emerging plan. I think it is also this one for the people in the room. Anyway, we mentioned already that if the testing is successful, there will be a follow-up for sure. It is in the interest of both parties to carry this forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you to all out there. So I think this concludes our morning activity. Thank you very much for your support and your engagement. Remember, like both Matteo and Francesco mentioned, this is just the start of the procurement process. It's going to take 3-4 months. So what we are going to do is first acknowledge that all the stakeholder types or classifications were mentioned as part of the solution. So you are all welcomed to the solution building. You have no choice. You're in the emails, so you'll have to go through with that. That's the surprise. There's no free food in Portugal, as they say. We will, for the next steps, start summarizing the solutions and start producing a jointly developed solution that we will all consult, and we will see if it will have impact. It does engage stakeholders properly. It does respect their wills and their position here. Is it feasible? Because usually we aim high, but sometimes it's just too complex and too technology driven, and it's difficult to assess the impact. And then we'll analyze the KPIs for the Climaboro project. So I don't know, Matteo, Francesco, would you like to close the session?
Matteo, maybe?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Joao and Barbara and the whole Cascais Ambiente organization. I mean, for having organized this. We hope that the people. I mean, and thanks also for the nice presentations that we had. Now we hope that we will have the right participation to the tender and this process, because that's the most important. Then everything will be published on our website between today and tomorrow. And then let's hope that we will see the right participation also from Cascais and the people that today showed up. That is very much. For now, thank you very much for being with us. And hope to see you next time for the next one. Good.
Okay, Francesco, quick closing down, perhaps?
No, nothing to add, just a reminder, 31st of July to receive contributions from your side, written contributions. You can download the template from the website. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll see you some other time. Until the end of the month, you'll have all the registrations and ideas collected from the participants and shared there. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.